Focus is a retailer that's always has had a difficult time. Over the last few years, they've been falling in and out of administration. And one of the issues for them is that they are sort of stuck in the middle in many respects. You've got the sort of dynamos of B&Q and Homebase on the one hand, and Wix obviously improving all the time. And then on the other side, you've got all the niche players as well, selling good quality DIY and hardware products. So Focus was always one of those retailers that, whilst there were various resurgences over the last few years, they have struggled to maintain a niche and market share position. Focus have been in and out of administration, and one of the issues is that a number of their stores have been circulated for a large period of time. So Kingfisher, Homebase and others have been able to see and pick out the sort of key high performers from the portfolio. So obviously Kingfisher had done their research and snapped up those 30 stores pretty quickly. I'm sure a lot of other stores would go, but to a certain extent, a lot of the stores that now remain have been picked over at length over the last few years. So really what's left are the peripheral traders, the poor locations, the stores that really aren't high performers overall in the estate. I don't believe that there's going to be a sea change in retailer administrations where we're going to see more and more retailers fall by the wayside. We've already seen that to a certain extent post-2008 when there was the fall of Lehman's and the credit crunch and everything else that happened. So retailers sort of didn't anticipate that happening at that point in time. However, now retailers obviously are more lean. They've restructured, they've reduced their costs from a supply perspective and from a staff perspective. So really, a lot of the retailers that are now left in the economy are ones that should stand the test of time. There are going to be weak retailers that maybe can be tipped over the edge through issues like Focus has felt, but for the most part, I think the huge administrations that we saw in 2008 won't be replicated this year or next. The sectors that are the most at risk from the potential threat of administration or reducing performance are, to a certain extent, in the clothing sector at the moment, because of the fact that cotton prices, the cotton crop in China was pretty poor. Rising costs overall are affecting retailers that trade in the clothing sector. A lot of them have hedged, to be fair, but some of them have had to pass on those higher costs to consumers, which will obviously reduce their margins overall, because they're not going to be able to pass on all of their costs. So some of the clothing retailers will see problems, and it's a case of constantly striving to innovate. Superdry are doing it successfully, as are other retailers, and so innovation's key if a clothing retailer is going to move on and perform or outperform the markets. There's always going to be a room for a retailer like HMV or Waterstones, in that clearly there were in the past a number of music retailers and books retailers selling products. Over time now you're left with HMV and Waterstones, but those are retailers that are pretty strong overall in terms of the fact that they've got a loyal customer base, a good sort of multi-channel offer now that they've invested in that multi-channel offer. Need to focus clearly on leisure. And HMV have got a cinema in Wimbledon Village which is doing particularly well for them. So overall, those two retailers need to continue to be in business in some respects, because there's always going to be room for convenience and people wanting to buy books and music as part of their overall shopping trip. So really, from a convenience perspective, those retailers I think will stand the test of time.